Right now, let's talk books, and Claire maybe is standing by. Kia ora, Claire.
Kia ora, Jesse.
How are you getting on?
I'm really well, thanks. Yeah, I'm kind of in level 2 mode. I had my first real coffee today, which was jazzy. I feel quite electrified.
Awesome. What sort of coffee do you go for? Are you a flat white person?
Yeah, flat white, regular milk.
Have you tried the oat milk?
No, but I am into coconut milk every now and then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I tell you, I'm not a big alternative milks guy, but oat milk is creamy as, man, and it's, if you feel like it's got a bit of an advantage over dairy health-wise, and they make it here in New Zealand, I'll buy you one next time I see you.
Okay, you're on. That sounds great.
Might be a while, though, because I'm stuck in level 4 like the rest of Auckland. At least there's books. What have you been reading?
I've got 2 novels here today, one by Kirsten McDougall, who's an Aotearoa author, and the other by Lauren Groff, who is American.
Great.
So Kirsten's book is called She's a Killer, and it's coming out next month with VUP, and it is a gripping dystopia set in the just future in Aotearoa. And it's when climate change is really, really showing itself all around the world, and things are pretty grim. And New Zealand has become a site where refugees are pouring in and buying up tracts of land as boat holes. So it's a pretty dire situation, but we have a main character called Alice, who is a really fascinating character. She's slightly unreliable, she's jaded, and her life seems to be defined by the fact that she's almost a genius. So she's 1 point off being a genius. And that kind of sense of failure right at the start seems to shape her whole attitude towards life and the world. So the story centres around Alice and her inner voice, what she calls Simp, whose voice pipes up and kind of harasses Alice in a way, and Pablo and Erica, who are refugees who she meets, and Alice's only friend Amy, and Amy's husband Pete, who's an architect for this thing called the Eden Project 2. So basically the story is that Alice unwittingly gets pulled into an underground resistance movement, which is led by Pablo, who is a guy who she thinks is actually just interested in her as a lover, and who he says his daughter is Erica, who's only 15 years old and who is a legit genius, but also turns out to be an assassin. So the whole story kind of flows from there, with Alice being pulled into this circle of resistance and activism, which is trying to undermine the Eden Project that Amy's best friend's husband is working on. So it's a really gripping read. It reads a bit like a thriller. And while the environment is bleak and it actually feels very close to home, like the details of this just future world are a little bit too real at times, it's really cut by this incredible sense of humour throughout the book, and it's driven by Alice. And she's just a really interesting offbeat character. Like once she realizes Erica is an assassin, she's not that worried about it, and she gets quite distracted by things easily. So she's contemplating the fact that this 15-year-old girl could kill her in a kitchen, but then gets distracted by how good this girl's makeup is. So it's really great. It's such a cleverly done novel because it makes you think about these really big issues that we have, but it takes you along on a really fast-paced kind of adventure, I suppose, with a really offbeat character. It's really brilliant.
What do we know about the author, Kirsten McDougall?
So she won the short story competition this year, the Sunday Star Times short story competition.
Right.
And she's known for her first collection of short stories and also her novella called Tess, which came out a few years ago. So this is her first full-length novel, and it's super accomplished. It really carries the reader all the way through. It's a really amazing piece of work.
Very good. Okay, that's Kirsten McDougall, and the new book is called She's a Killer. Sounds great. It's out now, is it, or is this one of the ones that you've got an advance copy of?
Yeah, it's coming next month. So you can pre-order it now from VUP, Victoria University Press, or you can wait and get it in the bookshops from the 14th of October.
Okay, so she's a New Zealand author, Kirsten McDougall. How about Lauren Groff?
Yeah. So Lauren Groff, some of your listeners may know the novel Fates and Furies, which came out a few years ago and was named by Obama as one of his best books of the year. So she kind of got a lot of kudos from that nudge, but she is an astonishing writer. She's known for her short stories as well. She's written 2 collections, one called Delicate Edible Birds and the other Florida. And her other novels include The Monsters of Templeton and Arcadia, as well as Fates and Furies. So this is her 4th novel, I think. And honestly, it's one of the best novels I have ever read. And I think I can safely say it's the book of the year for me.
Wow.
But I will do a caveat there because the book is about a medieval nun who is based on a real person, Marie de France, who was alive between 1160 and 1215. And nothing much is known about this woman apart from she wrote a series of lay, which is the French term for poetry back then, which were really extraordinary and defied a lot of the traditions of writing and of acceptable content at the time. So she wrote about women seeking to escape from boring marriages or violent marriages. She wrote about adultery, like all sorts of things that women weren't really supposed to talk about. So Lauren Groff has imagined the life story of this nun, and it is seriously very extraordinarily compelling. She's a very talented writer, and she pulls you into this medieval world in this very gripping present way. So you feel very transported into an extremely different way of life and a way of living.
Yeah, because it's quite a hard sell, I've got to say. It might just be me, and because I'm small-minded, I would probably kind of gravitate towards a novel set in contemporary times rather than one set in medieval France. That's on me. But you say that she writes it in such a way that it's compelling enough, despite it being unfamiliar content or unfamiliar setting.
Yeah, I think so. And I think maybe what is great about it is that it doesn't feel difficult, or there's not stuff in there that we wouldn't understand now. So basically these nuns are trying to survive difficult conditions. They don't have a lot of money. They have to live off the land. They're also landlords and have to deal with peasants and trying to survive off nothing while also helping support people who have nothing. So there are parallels with the way that we live now, but it's infused with this, the medieval frame of mind, which was so entrenched in ideas of religion and the way that, that more mystical world was so infused with everyday life. So maybe I'll read just a short bit, just to give
please do.
How interesting the writing is.
Great.
So Marie's hands were bleeding. She has just watched an ash tree sigh in resignation, then give a terrible crack and fall in a slow and graceful crash through the weak March light. A flood of squirrels flows across the ground, birds spray across the gash in the canopy. And this is when the second vision of the Virgin descends upon her. Later, after she turns and flies over the frozen ground and through the fields of winter rye, and up at last through the orchard and to the abbey gone so still, with the stillness of so few souls in it, and up her stairs to her cold anteroom standing at the desk, Abbess Marie writes and eventually will copy this in Latin into her private book of visions. So it's kind of fast,
very vivid,
and detailed and vivid. It's very vivid all the way through.
Very good.
Yeah.
Lovely writing. Interesting, again, just to call attention to the setting, that Fates and Furies, which was the one that she became famous for, was set, I think, like in contemporary New York. So interesting choice by the author to choose this very different subject matter. Although I see in a review that that Fates and Furies sort of had some Greek mythology and other stuff going on.
Yeah, so I read a very recent interview with Lauren Groff, and she basically said that she wanted to get as far away from Trump's America as possible. So that's why she chose this subject.
Who could blame her?
Her brain, is somewhere completely different.
Because if you set something in present times, you have to deal with all the stuff that's going on, I suppose. A book set in America in 2021 would have to be in a large part about COVID-19 and President Trump and division and all that sort of stuff. I guess it gives you some quite nice freedom just to transplant yourself in a completely different place.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that because actually so little was known about this woman, she had freedom to really invent what her life might have been like, which is, I guess, must be very exciting for a writer who wants to explore one potential life and what would happen.
She seems like a really incredible person.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read her previous novels apart from Fates and Fury, so I have already gone and ordered the rest so I can get some more of Lauren Groff.
Yeah. You have to eye her up for Verb Wellington, your festival, one year, if not this year, next year.
Yeah, I think I would love her to come out to Aotearoa, and we might try and keep her here.
Yeah, good one. Okay, hey, really nice to have you on, Claire, as always. Thanks for those recommendations. I've actually sent the previous one through to my wife, who's been looking for something, Fates and Furies, but this one sounds wonderful too. Is it out yet?
It is, it's out yet. And don't be put off by the medievalness of it. It really doesn't feel like that. It feels really present and exciting.
Great.
Yeah.
Matrix by Lauren Groff, the previous one, She's a Killer by Kirsten McDougall, and Claire Maybe's been our reviewer. Thanks very much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Kia kaha, level 4.
Oh, anything that, hey, kia ora, Claire. Anything you've got to say about your festival? It's looming large on the horizon, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We are hoping to go ahead in November. And we will release our program next week, actually, even though we may still be, suppressed by the levels. We're just going to show everybody the program anyway and hope for the best that November will be all clear and under level 1 so we can celebrate a lot of Aotearoa writers.
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks, Claire.
Yeah, my pleasure.